All right, traders, we are back with another episode of Trade Talk. Connor, thank you for joining us again.
Scotty, thank you for having me. How's everything in this crazy week going for you trading wise?
Well, look, it's slightly profitable, and it is. So it's been pretty wild. Now, we've got the Euro US dollar daily chart up here, guys. And Connor, for the people new to watching the podcast, he entered a sell trade on the euro at the bottom of this, or the low of this big bearish engulfing candle. So that was around, 40 odd plus days ago.
Yeah, we're getting towards 50 days.
Yeah, 50
now,
days,
Scotty.
50 trading days. So it's sort of like
Yeah.
that's a big collapse is what we've seen. So we were just discussing off air. Would you want to see a bit more of a bounce and then it drops again, so a push lower, and then the stop would be moved to break even essentially?
Yes. So I would put my stop loss below the lower low when this happens. Now,
Yeah.
as you can see, you can say since that bearish candle, big bearish candle, you can say there's been a few lower lows. So it's all up to the discretion of the trader to decide what they call a lower low. But I haven't really seen an attempt back up yet. In my eye, I've seen some little attempts, but I don't count that.
Yeah.
And then it'd have to really try and come up and then push back down, and then I'll move the stop loss. And it'll probably be, if I'm guessing, around about the break-even mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, so essentially, guys, it really just plummeted, and this right here was not a significant enough of a rally, and dropped again, and now it's just sort of hovering around this support level that I've got, and we'll see. But definitely the catalyst is still there. The Turkey situation is very fluid. And, if you haven't already, guys, Connor's latest video on his channel, Forex, Connor, goes into good detail about the current situation with the US dollar perceived strength. But it's important to be flexible with your thinking, and that the US dollar strength, it doesn't have as much substance. Would you say that, Connor? It's more because the euro is just worse right now than it's not because the US dollar is a golden, child, so to speak.
Yes, well, the consensus seems to be that the safe haven at the moment is the USD dollar.
Yeah.
So when there was some turmoil and some uncertainty in the eurozone, instead of going to gold, which traditionally happens, people went to the US dollar. And I was just saying in this video, I don't think that the US dollar is doing so great. It's just that the euro is doing so bad, and you should start to really think about why the US dollar is going up. And as we've seen that since I've said that, Scotty, there's been a bit of a correction. I went into the sort of different tangential lines that the trends were happening, and especially since the US dollar was going up exponentially, it was starting to look a bit like Bitcoin at one stage. I'm dramatizing it a bit, but it's just like when you start to see that exponential trend, maybe it's not always a great idea to get in.
Yes, you're right. And guys, I will leave the link in the description section because it's very good for just beginner traders as well, just to see, exactly what's going on in regards to the US and how it functions, so to speak, because there's a lot of debt. I didn't realize 21 trillion. So yeah, that's and they just keep printing money, so it's important. So don't just sort of load the boat in regards to thinking the US dollar is going to keep on going, because that's not going to be really the reality here. So just be a little bit cautious with catching a trend a bit too late as well. So you've just got to realize there is, some other things at play here. Now, what we can go into now is my latest trade that closed out, I think it was very late last night, was the New Zealand US dollar. So I sold this one on the 9th of August last week. So it collapsed pretty nicely on the back of, there was interest rate talk, and they're really not going to increase it anytime soon. Stabilized a little bit, and we're seeing a small bounce, and that took out my trailing exit. So this moved pretty well to my favor, and moved again, and so I was sort of, yep, I'm gonna have a trailing exit there. And it's just reality of trading. I knew there was going to be a bounce. I was sort of thinking to myself, there hasn't really been much of a bounce, and we've had a couple of nice sort of candles, especially today on the 4-hour. It was pretty much the high of that big bullish candle today on the 4-hour chart that struck me out there. So not too bad. You've sort of got to realize, as a trend trader, guys, you're going to have quite a few of these, and the big runners you just sort of keep persisting with, but you have to be realistic. So it's one of these things where things won't just sort of keep going in your favor all the time. There's going to be reversals that take place in other trading styles. So, but the daily chart is still, it's quite compelling that, we'll just wait and see here, to be honest. So what I think is worth bringing up, now Connor and I were discussing this before we started recording, is I'll bring the gold daily chart up here. So this is quite interesting. So Connor, let's say you had a bigger account where, well, I think you were saying you could trade this with good risk management. What is a concern here to take a buy trade right now, just looking at the daily chart? Why would you not sort of want to take this trade quite yet?
Well, that's a good question, Scotty. So when you have a trading strategy, most people have a few rules. And the rules, there's normally, if you would agree, there's probably a handful of rules that people have. Now, for those of you who are new to this is just what people call a pin bar.
Yep.
Or we call a kangaroo tail.
Yeah.
And it shows that there has been a whole lot of market rejection, especially what makes this crucial is it's on a support and resistance line. However, the overwhelming momentum suggests that this is on the downside, and the candle next to it is a very bullish and a big bullish candle. Now, if the candle next to it was maybe something that was very wicky, or a smaller bullish candle, or even better, a smallish bear candle, or even a small bullish candle, then maybe that would show that there's momentum to the downside and this thing's turning around. However, this, you look at on the daily how long it's been going down for gold, it doesn't look like this, just looks like it may be a speed bump.
It does. I just brought up the weekly chart there for the viewers as well, and went over, why this is a bit of a support level as well. So, and really the weekly chart, it highlights that it's not really a nice, dependable kangaroo tail. It's still definitely overwhelmingly pretty bearish. So that is a good point, guys. We're talking euro, we're talking gold here, and a lot of people do trade these two pairs. So it's important to sort of realize, don't sort of get ahead of yourself quite yet. You definitely want to wait for later into the session just to see really, what's going on and things like that. And there's the other dynamic with the Turkey situation, and that doesn't seem to be going so great either in regards to what Turkey are doing now. They're retaliating with tariffs of their own, and it's turning into a classic sort of situation with Donald Trump, and it's pretty funny. But markets move because of all this uncertainty, so you just got to be a little bit cautious. If you're if you don't have good risk management, this is probably not the market for you, because things aren't so stable and flowing nicely. They're more pretty volatile, so please just be careful with what you're doing. All right, so we'll discuss silver as well. I'll bring that chart up now, because that is definitely, I had a look at that and chatted with Connor off air about that, guys. So we don't really trade these two, but it's worth talking about though. Wow, okay, so pretty much very similar as well. And would it be same again, guys? So with what kind of said previously with that, it's just the momentum is still very bearish. But wow, okay, so the 4 hour is interesting too. It's very similar to gold as well. So there is finally some recovery going on here. But yeah, it's potentially too early days here just to jump on in and say, yeah, wow, look at that. The downtrend on the daily, it's just bam, 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 just keep falling. Miss me. All right. Interesting. Now, the pound. I'll bring the pound up because I discussed about potentially selling this one as well. But it's like the euro. It's sort of like halted, and now it's just floating around sideways. Probably, I've definitely missed the meat of the move, so to speak. It's sort of
Same.
It is.
We spoke about it last week. I said where I would take it to you, Scotty. And then I told you that I fell asleep, ended up falling asleep waiting for the candle. By the time I woke up, I'd missed the move, which was disappointing because I would be, I'd definitely be a break even by now. But you snooze, you lose.
It was tough because nothing really significant was happening. So I missed this as well. I was in the mindset of like, oh, it's still, it's okay. I don't really need to pay too much attention to it. It's going to happen later. And it did. And I'm like, oh, it already broke through support. And then I'm like, oh, well, I was like, oh, goodness, this is. I think I was in another trade, the odds cat or something. It wasn't particularly, I was just sort of paying attention to that. And so it is, guys. If you do trade, you sort of always have to be ready. But if you do miss something, don't just sort of go, oh my God, I got to load up here. And that won't be really rewarded normally. For the rare times it does get rewarded, the most of the time you won't, and it'll end up pretty bad for you. So, be mindful of that big time. But any other sort of potential trades that you're looking at, Connor?
No, everything seems to be correcting at the moment, Scotty. So I'll see what goes on. Perhaps I've missed anything for this week.
Yeah, it has been a wild week, guys, for how far things have gone. So a little bit of mean reversion happening here. It's nothing, ridiculous, but, it seems that the downward momentum is certainly definitely intact, and relations with Turkey and US haven't really improved a great deal. It's pretty just hilarious seeing. I think he was talking about boycotting Apple, like iPhones and whatnot. President Erdogan, whatever his name is, it was just like, oh, and Harley Davidsons and American-made alcohol. I'm like, oh, this is just fantastic. And then, because they don't want to release that pasta, it's just quite a circus now. And that bridge in Italy that collapsed doesn't seem really to have affected the currency markets at all, but that's just an absolute, it sounded like the bridge needed to be taken out of service, years ago. So not really currency related, guys, but it's just interesting to see all the instability that's going on.
Well, there's worries of Italy wanting to leave, do their own Brexit. I would call it.
Wow, wait, how about that?
So they're in a lot of debt, and they're the fourth most powerful economy in Europe. So there's talk about that because they're, obviously in debt a lot. So that bridge they're signifying that the whole place, it's a symbol of the whole place is falling around in front of them. They can't afford to maintain basic infrastructure. Perhaps that's why that's bringing attention to everything. But, with the last financial collapse, Scotty, was one bank went, then they all went. This financial collapse could be that one country goes and watch the other countries around it go. So it could be interesting.
I agree, guys. So I think that's a nice closing statement, to be honest. That is definitely the take-home message, guys, there. So don't just sort of, pile back in now for reversals. Let things prove themselves a little bit, because Europe's certainly not that healthy at all. So I think was that a nice, anything else to add there, Connor? Or that sort of summed up things pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's it.
All right, guys. Again, thank you for watching. Connor, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Happy trading, and bye for now.